But if it goes there, what might change?
Oh, a lot will change. It's, they look at the amnesty that late Yaradua gave. When he now the president made a commitment that I don't like what I'm seeing in Niger Delta, and I personally committed to this issue, it sends a lot of good message there. And that's the kind of thing that His Excellency Jonathan Goodluck ought to do in Yobe, Borno, Bauchi, and to identify himself with the cause of the yearnings of the people, and then come out with a real massive, labor-intensive, short-term programs like the American embassy had said. They've known this. The John Campbell, the former ambassador himself, had done a lot of research about Maiduguri. It's a well-established society with its tradition, with a lot of business, coming in from Cameroon, from Chad, and all that. It's a very highly cosmopolitan, very sophisticated society. A lot of Nigerians don't even know about that. So there is a lot of political capital, social capital, and security capital the president can make by being present there and taking real good charge of the situation there in terms of providing constructive engagement to the youths, particularly the youths. They're really aggrieved.
Should they come with a program like the amnesty program?
More than that, what you have something like the Marshall Plan, even for the peace and security of the state. Because, my fear is that it looks like a small thing. Today, churches are being attacked. Tomorrow, mosques are being attacked. Like you see, this small thing, we cannot continue sweeping them under the carpet. Most of the World War, even the First World War, started because I think Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated. Just one person was killed. And then we had about 30 million people losing their lives in the First World War. So you don't look at these security challenges and say, well, it's their own baby, it's their own issue, and then somehow it can fizzle out. It doesn't fizzle out that way.
For amnesty to take place, or like what happened in the South, there would have to be dialogue. But there's always been this issue of that there is nobody to dialogue with. Do you think the Borno elders know the people that should be able, that can have that dialogue with government?
You see, the reality was that what you have, the seed of the disagreement and the security challenge emanated from the fact that you had one political party that everybody was looking up to be like the Salvation Army, that's the ANPP. You had disagreement, very serious disagreement within that party. So as those disagreement was taking place, the other faction was arming itself, and it's obvious everybody had known the ECOMOG. And so it culminated in the killing of the extrajudicial killing of the USUPIA leaders and the judicial killing of the Commissioner for Religious Affairs and things like that. And nothing had come out of it to date as I'm speaking to. So these extrajudicial killings had been on the YouTubes and on the Twitters, on the Al Jazeera satellite television and all that. So until and unless you have a strong commitment to bring in justice to those that had created this problem, you find out that families still feel aggrieved as if the government is not concerned about what had happened to their own people. So everybody has taken guns, arms and ammunition to fight, to slug it out.
So the question, who would they be offering the amnesty to? Is it those who were armed in very first
Not amnesty. I'm saying that there ought to be a commitment, a genuine commitment from His Excellency, because it's now assuming its dimension. It's just there seems to be the root, and is branching out to other states. Bauchi is the same issue. You remember the governor of the Excellency Yuguda was in AMPP, and after winning the election, he now moved to the PDP. And you had, in Kano, you had overwhelming support coming to the Buhari administration. I mean, Buhari's party, and then overnight is the PDP that had won, and other states is the PDP that had won. So you saw the post-election violence issue. So it's a real, like the former National Security Advisor has said, look, I can't deal with this issue because based on what I've seen, it's a political issue. And,
so it is not, it's the politicians who are causing the problem in Borno?
Substantially, it's a political issue because they were looking at the politics as a very golden opportunity for them to deal with the social malaise that they have been going through. There's been a lot of poverty. If you looked at the average Nigerian statistics, was that 100 million Nigerians hardly make 200 naira a day, and that's the World Bank statistic. It's even worse in the northeastern state because was in the case that over the years it had remained the headquarters of the political equation in northern Nigeria. So during IBB's time, these same politicians now have become senators and governors will come to Abuja and say, look, you need Borno State, and so there is big amount of funds that are given to these young people. You have the women group, you have the butchers group, you have the shoe shiners group, you have so. So over the years, people who are making a hell lot of money from politics. Youth groups were making a lot of money from politics. And when Abacha's time, the same group comes, metamorphosed, itself into another GDP or whatever thing they call them, and they come back.
So this is an industry.
It's an industry, and so nobody was working. The people that were going to school, those of us who were going to school, that were going to work in public institutions, were looked as being fools. Why didn't you just join this bandwagon and become billionaires and millionaires? You go to Maiduguri, you see the disconnect between the well-to-do people, extremely very wealthy, versus the other people. So it's not really about an amnesty. It's about a structural problem that had been created over the years, and how are you going to solve this problem?
How then did these religious killings come into place?
Religious killings, yes, yeah. Basically, because of the politics, everybody knew where you voted for, which side you've gone to. Because it's all one family, and everybody knew that that party was a very popular party. The ANPP party was a very popular party. And then eventually now, with the exit of Buhari after crying, they looked at him really as a leader who could provide leadership and bring in a lot of change. And he ended up having no state. And this is so immediately you saw the anger in northern Nigeria with all this violence and all that. So whoever was participated in Scotland, that process, they knew it. If it was the army that helped in Scotland that process, rigging the election, they knew it. So they were going after every other person that was perceived as somebody who had, messed up the opportunity for them to come out from this economic doldrum.
Okay, now I've got some questions coming through now. I just saw one, it kind of disappeared. Okay, Yusuf Tony says, if he may ask, what can be, or what is the demand of, for instance, Boko Haram now, if they were to come in and
address
the
demand.
problem?
You see, they had already said it, that look, this election that the Supreme Court in the state had given to this gubernatorial candidate, he didn't win the election. So long as this man is coming back, whoever is the governor in Bauchi or is in Gombe or wherever, is saying that I'm the governor, people don't respect it.
Even though the Supreme Court had ruled?
Even though the Supreme Court has ruled. In the case of, I think the states is the Court of Appeal that rules.
Okay.
In the case of the presidency, it's the Supreme Court that rules. So you had a situation where the political misadventure had created the kind of the religious, political, and so-called terrorization that you have in that place. So everybody who participated in rigging that election had been identified because they know the kind of jeeps that you have, the new houses, this thing. So if you are a Muslim cleric, why, if you say you are a Muslim cleric, then you now rig the election. So they go after you, they shoot you.
But these elections were not in 1999. This crisis started in 1999. This crisis, the Boko Haram issue, began in 1999.
That's what I'm saying. It has been building up. It's been building up because you had Borno State, Maiduguri as the headquarters of the ANPP. And as I told you earlier on, these same politicians who had become senators and governors had been, had been having a wonderful time with the former military heads of state. And the former military heads of state could not go to foreign capitals. They would not be admitted in USA or the European capitals because they were wearing military uniforms. So they needed to transmute themselves into civilian population. And they needed these young people who each time go to the central bank, they give them this, and go and form women association, go and form butchers association so that we can win elections. At the end of the day, they win the election somehow and become senators. But the president cannot be transmitted because here in Lagos, they were torpedoing everything. And at the end of the day, Abiola comes in, they torpedo everything. So it's been building up, it's been building up, it's been building up. And so the same politician had now perfected the game. And when the civilian administration came, they saw for the first time a Buhari who was a symbol of purity, given what he had done as a former head of state. So everybody now rallied on, but he couldn't coast along because there was an overwhelming support for OBJ, that Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, in light of the Southwest. Southwest lost the Abiola's decision. So there was this sympathy that, yes, at least we can allow a Southwest person, given what had happened to Abiola, to go. So the tension was not so much. But subsequently, as the elections were building up, and Buhari kept on losing and losing and losing, when the chances came, this thing all just torpedoed into one thing.
Now, what do you see happening most likely in 2015?
Oh, it's going to be worse if nothing, it's going to be worse. I shudder to say that, because fundamentally 2015 you're not going to see any fundamental changes. Those fundamental changes that were envisaged were done by Justice Mohammed Way's report, party funding, independence of judiciary. We have not seen nothing yet, because what you have now seen are cosmetic changes, and those changes, the fundamental changes, ought to be reflected in the constitutional amendment. You haven't seen source of funding. People bring funds from whatever source, and nobody is questioning. Even Professor Jegawa, the chairman of INEC, was asked, can you ascertain how these huge funds were being, they said, look, I don't know how they make the fund, and there's nothing I can do. And that's critical.
Okay.
That the independence of all these institutions, the judiciary, has not been affected. So 2015, what are you going to see? And is there any new change when the fundamentals have changed?